We'd like to begin that we are on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, and we are grateful to work in this community. The film is eligible for the Canada Goose Award for Best Canadian Feature Film and the Grolsch People's Choice Award, and you can vote for the films online at tiff.net/vote. We would also like to thank the Film Farm for providing us with the film today. And it is really my pleasure to present this film. It's so rare for us as programmers to see portraits of Northern life that feel so authentic in the details, in the portrayal of the family relationships, especially the dynamics between women, that really capture the spirit of the community and especially the immense and profound presence of the land. And of course, this film is also starring Tantoo Cardinal, who is one of this country's most distinguished and treasured actors and one of my heroes. And so it is really my honor to welcome Tantoo in her first leading role in Falls Around Her.
Miigwech, thank you for coming. I am really proud of this film and to have it at this stage and to have it out to the world. It's been a long time coming, but we're super proud. I think that is. I'm kind of lost for words lately because it's just a bit overwhelming. But I want to introduce Tantoo Cardinal, Mary Birchbark, Johnny Slook. He's our Albert. And we have two producers with us today, Simone and Jamie. This film was shot in my community where I work and do all of my work, make films and write. And I have a studio there at Tikmikshing. And every time I leave the community and come to like the city or anything, they're always with me. And so I wanted to just acknowledge my community. You'll see it up on screen, and they were part of us in crew and cast. And they're always, they help me walk and try to, and navigate this world. So I guess we're going to come back for a Q&A. So let's enjoy the film.
Great. Miigwech, Darlene?
Yes. Miigwech now.
Hi there. It is my pleasure to welcome back director Darlene Naponse.
Thank you. Miigwech. Yes, let's bring up Tantoo Cardinal. The amazing Tantoo Cardinal. Beautiful, the fierce Tantoo Cardinal. And Johnny Slook. Beautiful, beautiful cast.
So, Darlene, I want to start by asking, you shot this up in Tikmikshing, Anishinaabe, which is your home, near Sudbury, and you live and work up there as a filmmaker. I think it's a pretty rare achievement that, often we think of having to move to city centers in order to work in this industry. Can you talk about that and also how you worked with the community to make this film?
Yeah, thank you. No, it was always a choice of mine, and I'm sure I probably could have had like 5 other films under my belt, but I chose to stay in my community and work from there. It's where the ideas come from. That's where that my support is, and so we've been making films there for that's kind of what we've been doing for a very long time, and every film we make, there's new people that are coming in and working with our, from the community. We're shoot, on the land, and we go through those protocols and understand where we can go, what we can show, and stories that we can do, and stories that are supposed to be just meant to stay oral and within our communities and within our families. And so it's an important part of me to work from my community and to have them be part of what we do. And so the cast and crew is like full of my beautiful community.
Wonderful. Tantoo, I also want to ask you what it's like. You've been in this industry for over 45 years. You have over 120 credits to your name. It is actually really surprising that this is the first time that you were number one on the call sheet. And I want to ask you about that and what you think about that.
Well, it's about time. And I think a lot has to do with our filmmakers coming to maturity. And we are all interested in our own stories. So I think that's why. And also for our filmmakers, it's taken a long time to build that road to the funding and to be trusted with it. I mean, we actually had one of our filmmakers who's in spirit now, but he got the job. He created and produced this opportunity for him to direct a 2-part miniseries, and they wanted him to have a trusted director to guide him. And luckily, they chose somebody who was absolutely insulted that they would ask them to kind of intercede in this filmmaker's work
And
that she
Tantoo,
would go to.
Are you talking about Big Bear, directed by Gil Cardinal?
Yes. Yeah. And so there's that. There's a certain attitude that we can be trusted with money or something.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of obstructions in the way of that process. But I don't really want to dwell on it because now here we are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it hasn't been easy, has it?
No, it hasn't been easy. No, and and I think it's part of that. It's part of what our Indigenous communities are dealing with. I also do a lot of politics, and it's that hand holding that needs to stop. We can control. We do. We're sovereign people, and we can do this.
And Tantoo, I also want to ask you, because you've been a part of a very long continuum. And back when you started, I mean, they wouldn't even cast Native people for Native roles. And then by the time we get to 1998, the film you just referenced, Big Bear, which I just have to personally say was the first time I was ever on a film set, and you were there. And to be as a part of that movie was what inspired me to get into film. So just want to say thank you to you.
Wow, thank you.
And I didn't realize at the time just how rare it was to actually have a Métis director at the helm, because it took many, many years for this push to happen. How do you feel like things are changing now from where you started to now?
Oh, it just chokes me up to think how hard it was for Gil to be able to accomplish what he did accomplish. And this is a foster kid. This is not somebody that came from, a place of convenience, and to, oh God, and it got him. There wasn't enough support for him. So I really, really do hope that there is a sincere switch that happens here, because we lose too many people for a lack of trust and hope. Mm-hmm. And I'll just leave it there. What was your question?
We can go to questions from the audience. Yeah, okay. It's all right. Questions out there? Questions? Yes, right here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the question is, Julian Cote, who did the music for the film, is he also from the community?
No, Julian's from Temagami, Bear Island, his community, and so he was born and raised up in that area. And he works. He's my husband, and we work in a technician now. Now his music, it's so beautiful, and the vocalizations of Pura Faye and is just so amazing. And it was a real. When we started to make the film and we were coming up with and speaking with Tantoo and all of the other creatives that were involved was this idea is like threading a silence and understanding that how all of this comes, down to Sage's amazing wardrobe. How does the aesthetic of all of everything come together and create silence, and for her to be able to walk the land, and then, but also when you feel that that violence that surrounds her, it just jars you. So everything was threaded from the beginning of the film, through many conversations and through a lot of the development, especially through the music.
Yeah, I think the rhythm of the film really comes across so strongly. And the other thing that I just want to say that shouldn't be a rare thing to see on screen, but just the portrayal of love and support within the family, and
Yes.
and how they all supported each other, and how integral and key that all was.
Yeah. No, when I think about when I was making this script, and it did come from part of our conversations earlier when we were making another feature film, but all of the amazing women that surround me, and what strength they have, and no matter what happens and what is, at them, they will just continue to rise, and they'll get things done, and they. That's what I grew up with, and that's what surrounds me. So I wanted to be able to celebrate that, but also look at the realities of what is happening in our communities, and to note that sometimes within all of this trauma, within all of this sadness, there's a lot of laughter, there's love, and that and a lot of support for each other. And even know that as sisters are, you can argue with your sister, but then 10 minutes later or a jump cut later, you're laughing.
Cousins are essential.
Cousins are essential, yes. And laughter is a huge important thing. And I think sensuality and sexuality and seeing women being able to be free and to explore that on cinema that we haven't seen.
Yes.
Indigenous people, being in love and having sex and just having a good time.
Secret, they have sex. And Johnny,
Same sex.
oh, we could just go on a tangent, but I'm just going to stop it right there. Johnny, I also want to ask you, because one of my favorite scenes is actually the date scene, and part of what I love about that scene so much is there's a man who comes in, and again, I think as Indigenous filmmakers, there's always an awareness of perpetuating stereotypes, and yet there's a guy who comes in and he's been drinking, and yet your character, he's a person, and there's so much humanity in that scene and care for one another, and it's doing the exact opposite of perpetuating like the drunken stereotype. Can you talk about that scene?
Yeah. So that scene was, first of all, what can I say? I'm working with Indigenous bulldozers that are paving Indigenous necessities, and for me to be part of it, it's just amazing. But
You're our tar, baby.
yeah, so that scene, it's kind of like playing myself, basically. I mean, like, in a sense of this whole storyline is everybody's story almost. I just kind of went home and understanding the character that was coming in drunk. It was like my brother or my sister, and I just kind of had to play myself and understanding how it all works, all that trauma, the connectedness, and the people as a community. It was a beautiful story. Yeah.
Questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to say what an amazing film that was. Beautifully directed. The acting was lovely. The music amazing too. Now I'm 63, and I'm a film goer, but it kind of surprises me, and I want to know how you feel about this. Did you think it would take this long for the Indigenous community to be putting out films? How are you feeling about this? I mean, better now than I'm so happy I saw this beautiful film, but we needed more of this a long time ago, and I'm glad you're here now, but
Yes, those films are probably in a box or on a shelf or being forgotten somewhere. We've been making films for a long, long time, but the doors haven't been open, the screens haven't been open, the welcome has not been there in the places that we needed them at the time, but that's okay. Because we're busy, right?
Yeah. And when one says no, we go and find another place that will say yes. But no, we've been doing this for a very long time, and there's masters within Indigenous cinema, and you have Alanis Abomso, and you have Maretta Mita. Even Dan is here, is an amazing, you know what I mean? Like filmmaker, there's so many filmmakers that are out there that aren't necessarily getting that spotlight, which they should be. Yes.
And also, Danis is here. So she respects and cares about our stories. And she's in a position to say, hey, look at this. So, aren't you glad that she's there?
But this is what it's about too, is that support, especially around indigenous filmmakers and in community. And then it comes back to that idea around community. We have our own reserves, our own communities, and, we have a film community that continuously supports each other.
Question at the back. I'll repeat. Where do you hope the film will be distributed?
Around the world.
Twice.
Twice. And galaxy and the cosmos. When I make films so that you can see it on the screen. And I really want to allow Canadians and people around the world to see this presented in theaters, but also understanding the digital platform that can really get into areas that it cannot get to a screen. So we're hoping that that it really is accessible to as many people as it can in whatever platform. I know this sounds really generic, but that's really it's just so that people can see it because of the amazing work that it, and these beautiful moments. And I was thinking about, I just want to go back quickly about the date scene because it was just a really touching time when we were shooting it. And Johnny brings such an amazing presence, and he's such a sweetheart. And Tantoo's, she's very sexy in this film. And so these moments were really fun. And crew was seriously, we're like, we want to go on a date. Because everybody thought it was this is a really hot date. Now I want to go on a date. So yeah, it was just a lot of, it was a hard film to make, but there was so much fun and so much laughter and so much beauty.
Questions? Yes, right here.
Hey.
Can you talk a little bit about your relationship to capturing the land in the film? Because that was definitely a big part of the film visually, and just the challenges of working with the weather and the change of seasons to get that in the story.
Yeah. So we shot in April when we thought we would be okay, but you're never okay, really, with something. We had 3 snowstorms, a ice storm, which pushed us back a day, and, many feet of mud, and then everything started to melt. So one day, I think we had 4 seasons in one day of shooting, our last day, which was great because we had all these pickup shots. So it was the different areas of the film.
Transition shots.
Transition
that you could use
shots.
anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
That's great.
Oh, it's sunny now. Oh, it's raining. But in the script, the land was always a character, and it's always part of that. And her idea of coming back home and walking the land, and her feet not being sure at the beginning, but at the end, she was fully rooted and back into that land. And so those are the areas that I walk, and those are the areas, in my community. And so I spent a lot of time walking the land myself, listening and singing, and then knowing where to go and at what time to come back, how the sun comes in, if there's going to be a high, if the water's going to be high or if the water's going to be low, different areas that can we get a truck in there? So all of that, and being able to we had to quickly change a lot of things because of the snow. And we started our first day in a snowstorm, which was kind of unbelievable because it wasn't supposed to happen. But things like that happen.
Okay, there's a question here.
Thank you for your beautiful film. And my question is about Tantoo's character and how much the movie wants us to think that she leaves because she's perhaps somewhat tired of her work, or she leaves because she's frightened of the guy, which, or is it all?
So the question is, how much does the film try to make you believe that the Tantoo's character is driven home because she's tired, or driven home because she's actually afraid of her manager, or maybe?
Isn't that an audience question?
Yeah, no, it was part of the idea of the script was to let the audience question that is, but you know what I mean? I think definitely because she knew that there was an issue with him, but she didn't know that the issue was going to be that big. So she was departing to find her next stage and to see what she was going to do.
I think there were a lot of things just from my own mechanisms in working. There was that feeling, that pressure from this guy, and the tiredness, also the times we're in. Because when we shot, when I make that decision, for me, what was happening is that I'm looking at all these people that need to know that we have to rise, rebel. And there wasn't enough happening. I felt that I had to go back and replenish. And I didn't know if I was going to come back or not, really. And so it was just to go to that place, the well.
And you know, it's I think too, like when I was writing it, this idea around what people project of what we should be doing and how we should do it and when we should do it, and then that sacrifice you make of being back home, or if you've chosen to be a mother, or if you've chosen to come home and take care of your family, and then you have this this idea of how you should be have a career, and most women don't have a lot of historically it's it's either when there's it's just about like this idea is that if you take time off you're gonna be forgotten, or you're going to be wasted, but no one's really identifying the contributions that has already happened or what can be next. And so I really wanted to be able to explore that.
Yeah, I really like that idea that if you're only valuable if you're productive, or success looks in a certain way. And I love that your film was countering that in a certain way.
Yeah, like she is just as contributing to the world, being home and walking the land as she was when she was on stage singing.
There's a question here.
I think the idea of replenishment isn't actually regarded as much as it should be. And the film actually says that, right? Any creative person, all of us in our own way are going to have a period of replenishment. I think you illustrated that beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah, the comment was just that replenishment doesn't seem to be valued, and that the film really was a part of, that's what it was saying, and that all creative people need that replenishment. Okay, there's a question back there. Yep. So can you talk about the cinematography and how you selected your DOP?
Yeah, we were on a search for a DOP for a very long time, and I reached out to a friend, another filmmaker friend, and had suggested Ray, and I it was so funny because it's a lot of like speed dating, I called it, of either like production designers or first ADs, and just to, but it was the idea around finding somebody who can, one, work within the nature, and could take a moment to breathe and allow that breath to happen. And there was also and Ray's has this beautiful, just this naturalist kind of approach to steady cam. And so we knew that we were going to be out in the bush for a very long time, and somebody who could do that. And then, it's so beautiful. Yeah. So we just talked about, and just had a really brief conversation, and he grew up in Sudbury. So then we had some, common kind of ground, and we saw Star Wars at the same time and stood in line.
Well, there you go.
So it started with Star Wars.
And
It always
Darlene,
starts with Star Wars.
I also wanted to ask about the activism that is interwoven, because there's a shot where you actually feature Autumn Peltier, and I'm wondering if you can tell everyone who she is. Because I feel like that's overlapping. And then Tantoo, I have a question for you about the activism piece as well.
Autumn is an amazing, beautiful young warrior woman from Wikwamacong, and
13.
she's 13. Yeah. And Stephanie is a dear friend of mine, and we grew up together. And to have Stephanie, and then but to have Autumn come, and it was actually surprised me because I wasn't quite sure, and she was there that day, and it was just everybody just like came together, like we felt like we were going to a real protest. We're like yeah, and it was freezing cold. It was so cold that day too. And but it's the importance, especially because Autumn's voice and her she's sharing with the world is that protection of that lifeblood of water, and to have the youth rise like that in a profound way, and that it's inspiring the world to really awaken to understand the issues around water and how important it is right now. And it is important right now. The backstory about the mine and the arsenic in the water is our story in our community. And, there's been a lot of negligence around mining and within land, especially we're in the kind of the hot spot and the beginning of a lot of what's happened within mining in Canada, with the history around Vale, Inco, and yet they've never been responsible for a lot of what they've done to this land and to our community and to our territory, and nor have they ever given us, a penny, what I mean, of the millions that they've made. So, it's really important that people start to see from our perspective of how dangerous these issues are, and how we've been working on this for a very long time. And it's the youth who are, igniting it and pushing us forward to protect our earth and to honor it, and to understand that we cannot continue to act this way.
And Autumn is driven. Her mom drives her around.
Yeah.
She presented at the UN in NYC and talked to world leaders about water. Warrior up.
No
she
fear.
said.
Yeah, warrior up. No fear.
And Tantoo, in real life, you were arrested protesting a pipeline with the late Margot Kidder. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there's lots to tell. She, 350.org are the ones that organize that sequence of arrests. And I was born in Fort McMurray. And I grew up there when the world was green, when the earth was green, and the road got built through to Edmonton the year that I left to go to high school in Edmonton. And the place was destroyed in no time flat. There's just an instinct. It's like a creature that goes in and finds the most valuable land and takes it. There was a place across the lake that we all shared. We lived there. We'd go across on our boat. We'd do our hunting. We'd do our berry picking. We'd do camp for a couple of days, and then go back home. We all shared that side of the lake. That's the first place they head. They cut it all up, build great big fences, beware of dog, and that was it for us. There's people who lived there originally that can't afford it because of all that that's gone in, and sicknesses, cancers in the water everywhere, especially just downstream from Fort McMurray. There's tailings dangerously close to the river, and there's poisons going into the North Seas and everything based on that. However, we still need to keep it going. We still got to build more pipelines. And I was sick with rage for many years. It actually made me crazy. And but I'm not violent. I'm more violent to myself. I had little conversations with suicide to get the hell out of here. There's no respect. There's absolutely no willingness to see that the earth is alive. Oh, it just went on and on and on. However, I survived that. And so I was really looking for something, some way of being a part of protecting that or talking about it in some way. And then came, Margie called. So let's go get arrested in D.C. And I didn't have anything to fly around with. She said, I got flight points, come on. And so she bought me flight points, and we stayed at her friend's place. And we went and we got arrested. And as we were being let out of jail, there was an earthquake. And I could just feel the power of the earth that was with us. And so that's as much as we got time for that story.
Thank you. We are out of time, but thank you so much. Miigwech.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miigwech.
Thank you.
Thank you.